Have you ever felt that uniquely modern brand of exhaustion?
Oh, man, yes.
Like, you know the exact feeling I'm talking about. You're supposedly doing 100 things at once, right?
Right.
You're answering this barrage of Slack messages while trying to chop onions for dinner.
It's the worst.
It is. And you've got a podcast playing in your ear while you're navigating rush hour traffic, or, you're physically sitting at a table nodding along to a friend's story, but mentally.
Mentally, you're miles away.
Exactly. You are meticulously planning tomorrow's morning meeting. And yet, despite the fact that you are executing all of these tasks simultaneously, you feel entirely just chillingly disconnected from every single one of them.
Yeah, you're everywhere all at once.
Which means functionally you are nowhere.
Right.
And it's this highly specific type of fatigue. I mean, it is not the satisfying physical fatigue of chopping wood or running a marathon.
No, not at all.
It's a cognitive fatigue. It is the deep spiritual exhaustion of just, fragmentation.
It really is. I mean, it's the defining psychological ailment of our era.
Totally.
We are relentlessly overtasked,
Yeah.
yet simultaneously underpresent. And the insidious trap we fall into, like the baseline assumption we make about this exhaustion, is that the sheer volume of tasks is the root cause of the problem.
Right. We think it's just a numbers game.
Exactly. We tell ourselves this very compelling lie. We say, if I could just clear my schedule.
If I could just get to inbox 0.
Yes. Or if I could just automate my meal prep or hire a virtual assistant, then I would finally feel centered. We treat it as a strictly logistical problem.
Right. We treat it like a math equation. We think the cure for doing too much is simply doing nothing.
Which is a huge trap.
It is. We fantasize about the sensory deprivation tank or, the silent meditation retreat in the mountains. We think withdrawal is the only antidote to the chaos.
But it's not.
No, it's not. And today, we're going completely scorched earth on that assumption.
Yeah.
We're doing a deep dive into a genuinely paradigm-shifting piece from the Tao of Fred.
It's a fantastic essay.
It really is. It's titled The Hidden Center Integration of Contemplation and Action. And the mission of this deep dive today is to pull apart the deeply ingrained tension between the sacred and the mundane.
Which is a huge topic.
Massive. But the piece does this by weaving together these incredible touchstones. We've got imagery from Western religion, Eastern religion, and modern literature.
A really fascinating mix of sources.
Totally. And the goal is to figure out how we can actually live better, richer lives right now. Not on some remote mountaintop, but in the actual messy reality of a Tuesday afternoon.
Which is where most of us actually live. And I think the core thesis here is incredibly liberating. Especially if you're someone who feels like they're constantly failing at work-life balance.
Oh, I raise my hand to that.
Right. The argument is that the problem of our modern exhaustion isn't actually about how much we are doing.
Wait, really? So the volume doesn't matter?
Well, the volume of the action is secondary. The real crisis, the actual root of the exhaustion, is the interior posture from which we execute that action.
The interior posture.
Yeah. We've constructed this completely false binary between contemplation, which we erroneously imagine sitting perfectly still with our eyes closed, and action.
Which we experience as the frantic, scattered reality of trying to, pay our mortgages and raise our kids.
Exactly.
Okay, let's unpack this, because to really get at the mechanics of this interior posture, the essay doesn't start with some high-minded philosophical treatise.
No, it starts in a very ordinary setting.
A very grounded domestic setting, specifically a kitchen in first-century Bethany.
Right. We're looking at the archetype of Mary and Martha.
Now, if you're tuning into this, you probably already know the basic framework of this Gospel of Luke story.
It's a very famous scene.
Yeah, Jesus is the guest. He's in the living room. Mary is sitting at his feet listening, and Martha is in the back just sweating over the ancient equivalent of a multi-course dinner party.
Right. She's doing all the work.
She is. And she's getting increasingly resentful until she finally snaps. And then Jesus gives that famous response. He says, Martha, you are anxious and troubled about many things, but one thing is necessary. Mary has chosen the better part.
Which, let's be honest, is a text that has caused an immense amount of historical frustration.
Oh, absolutely. I'll be totally honest. Every time I've encountered this text, my immediate visceral reaction is pure defensiveness on behalf of Martha.
It feels very unfair at first glance.
It does. If I'm hosting a dinner party and I'm stressed because the roast is burning and the wine needs to be poured and my sister's just sitting in the living room having a deep philosophical chat with the guest of honor, I'm going to lose my mind.
Anyone would.
Right. If everyone in the world just sat around contemplating the mysteries of the universe, society would collapse.
Someone has to cook the dinner.
Exactly. Who is building the bridges? Who is writing the code? Who is changing the diapers? It has always read to me like a massive, frankly unfair endorsement of the contemplative intellectual over the blue-collar, practical worker.
And what's fascinating here is that this is exactly the superficial reading that this analysis completely dismantles.
Okay, so how does it dismantle it?
Well, the text is not abolishing Martha's labor. It's not a critique of the act of cooking or hosting. The key here actually lies in the original Greek word used to describe Martha's state.
Oh, I love a good etymology deep dive. What's the word?
The word is perispato.
Perispato.
Right. And it is often translated merely as distracted or busy, but the literal translation implies being pulled apart or dragged in different directions.
Pulled apart. Wow.
Yeah, she's in a state of violent internal dispersion. It's not that she's cooking, it's that she is internally fractured while she's doing it.
Pulled apart. That is exactly what I was trying to describe with the Slack messages and the chopping onions.
It's perfectly parallel.
It's neurobiologically accurate. When you are rapidly task switching, your brain's prefrontal cortex is desperately trying to reorient to new rules and new contexts every, 3 seconds.
Right, you're draining your cognitive reserves.
Yeah. You literally feel a tearing sensation in your attention. Your sympathetic nervous system spikes into fight or flight over a completely mundane task.
Precisely. So the diagnosis being offered in the living room in Bethany isn't about her culinary efforts at all. It's a diagnosis of her nervous system and her spiritual fragmentation.
That makes so much more sense.
And if we look at how towering theological figures like Gregory the Great and Thomas Aquinas interpreted this, they saw this as the ultimate archetype of the vita activa, the active life, and the vita contemplativa, the contemplative life.
Right.
But Aquinas made a brilliant, highly nuanced point here. While he argued that the contemplative life is technically higher in its ultimate object of focus, the teleological goal of a human being isn't to stop working.
It's not to just sit on the floor forever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The goal is the transfiguration of the action itself. The ideal state isn't that you cease to cook, it's that you cook in God.
You cook in God. Wow. So the sacred and the mundane are no longer two different rooms in the house. The sacred is the way you hold the knife.
It's a beautiful way to put it, yes.
But I want to push on that famous phrase, one thing is necessary. Because if it's not just sitting still, what is it?
That's the million-dollar question.
Right. The Tao of Fred piece suggests reading this apophatically. And I think it's worth taking a second to really drill down into what an apophatic reading means here, because it changes the entire geometry of the story.
It really does. So apophatic theology, which is also known as the via negativa, is this ancient practice of defining the divine by what it is not.
By what it is not. Okay.
Right. It is the recognition that human language and human categories are vastly insufficient to describe ultimate reality. You cannot say God is a thing, among other things.
So you can't put God on a checklist.
Exactly. So when the text says one thing is necessary, and we read that apophatically, it means that this one thing cannot be reduced to a specific task.
Oh, I see.
It's not a specific role or a specific emotion. It is not an item on a to-do list. It is the ground beyond predicates. It is the silent, unconditioned center from which all actual meaningful action flows.
So it's not a competition between chopping vegetables and listening to a lecture.
Not at all.
The one thing is the unified attention beneath both of those actions.
Exactly. Mary is not escaping the world. And that is the fundamental misunderstanding of contemplation.
We think contemplation is just doing nothing.
Right. But true contemplation isn't passivity. Passivity is just a lethargic lack of action. Mary's stillness is an intensely active, unified gathering of the self around the presence of the sacred.
She is anchoring the room.
Yes, she's the anchor. Martha's world, the realm of service, hospitality, and practical execution, is absolutely necessary. It is simply unintegrated in this specific moment.
Because she's perispato.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She has lost contact with the center. She has allowed the demands of her environment to dictate her internal weather.
I really relate to that. When I am stressed about a deadline, it's not the work itself that is crushing me. I actually usually like the work.
Right, the work is fine.
It's the story I'm telling myself about the work. It's the anxiety that if I fail, my identity is compromised. I am doing the work from a place of fear and dispersion, not from a grounded center.
Which is such a common modern experience.
It is. So The Mary and Martha archetype perfectly maps onto our daily low-stakes anxieties.
But the Tao of Fred essay doesn't stop there.
Right, because it's one thing to say, hey, try to breathe and be mindful while you're roasting a chicken. The stakes in that kitchen are relatively low.
You burn the dinner, you apologize, you order takeout.
Exactly. But what happens to this philosophy when the stakes escalate to the absolute maximum?
This is where it gets intense.
What happens when the action required of you is not hospitality, but a matter of immense moral consequence and physical survival?
To test the limits of this framework, we have to transition out of the domestic sphere entirely. We move from the Western biblical tradition into the Eastern mythological paradigm.
Specifically, we're going into the Bhagavad Gita and the legendary battlefield of Kurukshetra.
Right. The scene shifts dramatically.
And again, if you're engaged with these texts, you know the setup of the Gita. We have Arjuna, the ultimate warrior, stationed in his chariot right in the middle of two massive opposing armies.
The tension is incredible. Conch shells are blowing. The war is about to commence.
But Arjuna looks across the battlefield and the horrifying reality of his duty sets in.
He sees who he has to fight.
Yes. He sees his own family members, his revered teachers, his childhood friends on the opposing side.
It's devastating.
The moral weight of the violence he is about to commit just completely paralyzes him. It's the ultimate crisis of the active life.
He literally drops his weapons.
He drops his weapons, collapses in the chariot, and tells his charioteer, who is the divine avatar Krishna, that he refuses to fight. He wants to opt out.
It is a profound psychological collapse. The sheer karmic terror of the action, the inescapable harm that will result from his duty is just too much to bear.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the synthesis in this essay is just incredibly sharp on this point.
It really connects the dots.
Arjuna's proposed solution to this moral nightmare is to walk away, go to the forest, and live as an ascetic.
Right.
He basically wants to adopt a distorted version of Mary's choice.
Exactly.
He thinks the only way to remain pure, to avoid the karmic stain of the world, is to withdraw from action completely. And honestly, isn't that a perfectly rational response?
It makes complete sense on a human level.
Isn't withdrawal the ultimate spiritual flex in so many ancient ascetic traditions?
It is a very common interpretation of spirituality, yes.
Mm-hmm.
The belief that the physical world is inherently corrupting and that purity is found only in absolute renunciation.
So Arjuna just wants to be pure.
Right. He believes the only alternative to the horrific karma of the battlefield is total withdrawal. But Krishna absolutely demolishes this idea.
He does not let him off the hook.
Not at all. The philosophical framework Krishna delivers, which forms the entire backbone of the Gita, is infinitely more demanding than simple withdrawal.
Krishna essentially corners Arjuna with a paradox, right?
Yes. He tells him, you cannot escape action. Even breathing is an action.
Right.
Even choosing not to fight is an action that will have catastrophic consequences for your people.
Wow, yeah. Inaction is an action.
Exactly. Therefore, the instruction Krishna gives is threefold. He says, do not abandon action. Do not cling to its fruits. Act from a place of inner stillness.
Do not abandon action. Do not cling to its fruits. Act from a place of inner stillness. We really need to pause and dissect the psychology of that, because it goes against every modern impulse we have.
It's deeply countercultural. This is the introduction of karma yoga, the yoga of action.
Karma yoga?
Yes. If Martha represented scattered action and Mary represented gathered stillness, Krishna is introducing the third possibility. Gathered action.
Gathered action.
Action performed entirely as an offering. It is action grounded in the absolute awareness of the eternal, but executed without any obsessive attachment to the outcome.
The outcome, the fruits of the labor. This is where I think modern psychology really maps beautifully onto this ancient text.
So?
Well, when we talk about the fruits of our action today, we are talking about dopamine.
Oh, absolutely.
We are talking about the anticipation of reward. I send an email, I want a reply, I launch a project, I want praise, I want a promotion, I want the metric to go up.
We are addicted to the result.
My entire nervous system is tethered to the result of what I am doing, which is ironically completely out of my control.
Right.
And that tethering is what causes the perispado, the pulling apart.
Exactly. You are mortgaging your present peace for a future result that may actually never arrive.
Which is terrifying.
It is. Arjuna is terrified because he is attached to the fruits. He is obsessing over the victory, the defeat, the grief, the kingdom.
He's living in the future consequences.
Right. Krishna demands that he sever that attachment. Arjuna must become a hybrid being.
A hybrid being. I love that.
He must cultivate the interior stillness of Mary, seated inwardly at the feet of the divine, while outwardly executing the unimaginably heavy, violent duties of Martha.
It completely reframes how we view Mary's better part.
It really does.
Mary's better part isn't a rejection of the physical world. It is the necessary internal condition that makes right action in the physical world possible.
That is the exact takeaway.
Arjuna can't run to the forest to find the sacred. The sacred is right there, in the chariot, in the terrifying duty that is staring him in the face.
You have to fight.
He has to fight, but the internal posture shifts entirely. He has to fight without the poison of hatred, without the ego-driven desire to conquer, without the paralyzing fear of death.
His action is stripped of ego.
Yes, it becomes pure duty, pure offering.
Which is an almost unimaginably difficult psychological state to achieve. To care deeply enough to execute the action perfectly, but to be completely detached from the result of that action.
Right. It's easy to conceptualize, but incredibly hard to actually practice.
Extremely hard.
But, as I was reviewing this section of the Tao of Fred piece, I kept hitting a wall.
What kind of wall?
Well, and I imagine you listening might be hitting the same wall right now. It is somewhat easy to find the hidden center when you have literal glowing divine avatars standing right next to you explaining the universe.
That does make it a bit easier, yes.
Right. Jesus is physically sitting in Martha's living room. Krishna, the supreme deity of the cosmos, is literally driving Arjuna's chariot. The sacred is highly visible.
It's a localized, incarnate presence in those stories.
Exactly. But what about us? What if we strip away the overt historical theology?
What if there's no deity in the room?
Right. Does this blueprint, this integration of the eternal and the ordinary, does it still hold up in a gritty, hyper-secular modern world?
It's the ultimate stress test for the theory.
Because most of us are not experiencing burning bushes or cosmic revelations on our commute to work. We're just stuck in traffic.
And that skepticism is precisely what brings us to the third pillar of this essay's argument.
Okay, where are we going now?
We leave the ancient world entirely. We leave the biblical courtyard and the mythic battlefield, and we drop straight into the gray, bustling, profoundly ordinary streets of early 20th century Dublin.
Ah, modern literature.
Yes, we are entering James Joyce's Ulysses.
Now, Ulysses is a notoriously dense, modernist labyrinth.
Understatement of the year.
Right, but you don't need to have parsed all of its linguistic puzzles to grasp the archetypal dynamic Joyce is playing with here.
No, the core themes are very clear.
Joyce presents us with two protagonists who perfectly embody the fractured modern secular version of the exact polarity we've been tracking.
We have Stephen Dedalus and we have Leopold Bloom.
Okay, so if we connect this to the bigger picture, how does Stephen function in this specific framework?
Well, Stephen Dedalus is the cautionary tale. He is the ultimate Mary gone horribly, destructively wrong.
Interesting. How so?
He is purely intellect. He is a brooding aesthete, wandering around Dublin, agonizing over deep metaphysical questions, history, language, and his own tortured identity.
So he's all in his head.
Entirely. He is seated solely in the realm of contemplation, but because he has severed himself from the active physical world, his contemplation is completely sterile.
He's paralyzed.
Totally paralyzed. He is estranged from his own body. He's completely alienated from the people around him. He can't even maintain a basic relationship.
Wow.
He is a genius, trapped inside his own skull, completely incapable of translating his profound thoughts into a lived, practical reality. He is the epitome of modern alienation.
He represents the spiritual dead end of trying to divorce the intellect from the somatic, physical reality of the world.
Exactly. But contrasting him, we have the magnificent Leopold Bloom.
The redeemed Martha.
Yes. If Stephen is the corrupted Mary, Bloom is the redeemed Martha. While Stephen is staring at the ocean, contemplating the nature of time, what is Bloom doing?
Bloom is walking around the city doing chores.
He is.
Yeah.
He is attending to bodily needs. He is eating, using the outhouse, going to a funeral, reading advertising copy, buying a bar of lemon soap.
He is utterly, unequivocally immersed in the mundane.
But the crucial difference, the thing that separates him from Martha in the kitchen, is that Bloom is not periospato.
He's not pulled apart by these errands.
Exactly. And this is where Joyce's genius aligns so perfectly with the ancient traditions. Joyce does not mock Bloom's immersion in the ordinary.
He doesn't look down on him for buying soap.
No. He doesn't portray it as a trap. Instead, Joyce renders Bloom's attention to these banal physical realities with such exquisite, profound tenderness that the mundane itself becomes, as the essay terms it, quietly sacramental.
Boy, sacramental.
The perfect example is the famous breakfast scene.
Oh, the pork kidney.
Yes, the pork kidney. Bloom is frying a pork kidney for his breakfast. And the way Joyce describes this, the exact sound of the butter sputtering in the pan, the rich smell of the meat, the precise physical sensation of standing by the stove, it's incredibly phenomenological.
So he's just fully there.
Bloom's attention is entirely gathered in that moment. These sensory details are not distractions from the quote-unquote meaning of life.
Right.
For Bloom, in that moment, the sputtering butter, the meaning. These mundane actions become sites of presence.
Sites of presence. Think about that the next time you are making your morning coffee.
It changes everything.
It really does. Like the sound of the grinder, the smell of the beans, the heat of the mug. We spend so much of our lives rushing through these physical micro moments to get to the important stuff.
The meeting, the email, the existential crisis.
Exactly. We treat the physical world as a waiting room. But Joyce is arguing that if your attention is gathered, the waiting room is the sanctuary.
That's a great way to phrase it.
Bloom is executing Martha's tasks, but he is experiencing moments of Mary's unified attention. He is doing secular karma yoga.
He absolutely is.
Yeah.
And what's brilliant about Joyce's structural choice is that he refuses to resolve the tension with a neat Hollywood ending.
Right, it's not a fairy tale.
Stephen doesn't magically become a practical businessman, and Bloom doesn't suddenly start writing metaphysical poetry.
They stay who they are.
They do. Neither of them is complete on their own. But their eventual tentative convergence late in the novel points toward a necessary realization for modern consciousness.
Which is what?
We have to relearn in our secular age what Luke and the Gita understood implicitly.
Which is that the sacred does not abolish the ordinary.
It doesn't replace it at all.
It suffuses it. It fills it up from the inside out, which, if you really internalize it, is just a staggeringly hopeful way to view a totally normal Tuesday.
It elevates the baseline of human existence.
It democratizes the sacred. You don't need a mountaintop and you don't need a divine avatar. You just need your own gathered attention.
Exactly.
So we've journeyed through these three massively different cultural frameworks. We have the first century Middle Eastern kitchen.
Right.
We have the ancient Indian battlefield. And we have the gritty secular streets of 1904 Dublin.
That's quite a trip.
It is. So the obvious question is, why does human consciousness keep generating this exact same narrative architecture across thousands of years and completely disparate cultures?
It's a pattern that refuses to go away.
What is the underlying psychology here?
Well, the Tao of Fred piece moves into a really elegant synthesis at this point. It maps out a recurring structure of consciousness.
A blueprint.
A three-stage blueprint that forms the myth beneath all these myths. It applies perfectly to all three traditions, and more importantly, it applies to human cognitive development itself.
Okay, so let's walk through this blueprint. The first stage is division.
Yes. Division is the starting line for the human condition. It is the default state of the untrained mind.
It's Martha, fragmented and pulled apart by the sheer logistics of hospitality.
Right. It is Arjuna, emotionally and morally paralyzed by the terrifying complexity of his duty.
And it is Stephen Dedalus, deeply alienated and trapped in the labyrinth of his own intellect.
It is the state of being severed from the center.
And evolutionarily, this makes total sense. Our brains evolved to constantly scan the environment for threats. We are hardwired to be distractible, to jump from stimulus to stimulus.
Division is biologically normal.
But it's spiritually exhausting, which leads to the second stage of the blueprint, encounter with the sacred.
The intervention, the moment the pattern of division is interrupted.
Like Jesus in the living room.
Exactly. In Luke, this is Jesus gently reordering Martha's perspective. In the Gita, it's Krishna revealing the cosmic truth of the universe to Arjuna on the chariot.
What about in Ulysses?
In the purely secular world of Ulysses, it's the quiet, sudden epiphanies of Bloomsday, those flashpoints of profound somatic clarity while doing something completely banal, like looking at a sliver of sunlight or smelling a bar of soap.
And that encounter forces the third stage, reorientation.
The synthesis. It is the deep realization that one thing is necessary, as the gospel says.
It is the difficult command to act without attachment, as Krishna teaches.
And it is the somatic rediscovery of meaning in the ordinary physical world, as Joyce illustrates. The trajectory of human maturation in every single one of these traditions is always the movement from fragmentation to integration.
So what does this all mean for us? I want you listening to look at your own life right now through the lens of this blueprint. Division, encounter, reorientation.
It's a powerful lens.
If the natural movement of human growth is from fragmentation to integration, we have to ask ourselves, Where do we usually get stuck? Why are so many of us perpetually exhausted?
That's the real issue.
I think the brutal truth is that we stay perpetually stuck in division, and we stay stuck because we operate with a fundamentally flawed, culturally conditioned definition of the sacred.
How so? What do we get wrong?
We treat the sacred like a vacation. We think it's an external destination we have to travel to escape our real lives.
Oh, yeah.
We think it's a 10-day silent retreat we can't afford or a 2-hour meditation block we simply do not have the time for. We think the sacred is elsewhere.
And because it is elsewhere, and we're stuck here with our inbox and our laundry, we feel a constant low-level grief.
That is the exact tragedy of modern exhaustion. But the profound realization offered here is that the sacred is not a place you go.
Right. To quote the piece directly, the sacred is not elsewhere. It is what gathers the fragments.
I want to emphasize that. The sacred is not a separate object you have to go find in the woods. It is the unifying force.
It's the glue.
I was trying to come up with a visual for this earlier. We often think of the sacred as the peak of the mountain, the highest, most remote point that you have to climb away from the valley to reach.
A very common metaphor.
But what if the sacred isn't the mountain peak? What if the sacred is the gravity that holds the entire mountain together?
Well, like that.
It's the invisible force that keeps the rocks and the trees and the dirt from floating off into the void. It is the gravity that pulls the scattered, chaotic pieces of your daily attention back to a dense, unified center.
That is an excellent way to conceptualize it.
Yeah.
It shifts the burden completely from seeking to gathering.
But this is the pivot point where we have to get ruthlessly practical. Theological frameworks and modernist literature are beautiful to discuss. But how does this actually integrate into a nervous system that is currently hijacked by modern life?
Theory has to become practice.
Exactly. How do you apply this when you literally have 500 unread emails, your toddler is screaming in the next room, and you are 10 minutes late for a Zoom presentation?
You can't just philosophize your way out of a panic attack.
No.
Yeah.
How do we live this?
Well, this raises an important question, and the essay makes exactly this pivot, translating these ancient mythological truths into lived neurological reality.
Right.
The text states plainly that we live, perhaps more acutely than any generation in history, in Martha's condition.
We are objectively overtasked.
We are pulled into 1,000 competing directions by the design of our technology, the demands of our economy, and our social obligations. But the critical reminder is that the danger is not the work itself.
Right. The danger is work without center. It is action totally divorced from grounded meaning. When your attention is shattered across a million different digital and physical surfaces, your neurobiology pays the price.
So the practical question becomes, how do we fix this if we can't just abandon the world?
Because we established with Arjuna, the corrective is not withdrawal.
Right. Very few human beings are genuinely called to abandon society and become monastics, and even fewer possess the psychological fortitude to actually sustain that kind of isolation.
We have rent to pay, we have dependents, we have societal duties. We can't all run to the forest. We are embedded in the grid.
Exactly. Therefore, the ultimate invitation of this synthesis is to cultivate what the essay brilliantly calls interior merriness within exterior Marthaness.
Interior merriness within exterior Marthaness. Okay, let's break that down into the actual mechanics.
Let's do it.
The Tao of Fred piece outlines 4 specific correctives, and I want us to really dissect each one because this isn't just theory anymore. This is the actual blueprint for rewiring how you experience your waking hours.
Step 1.
Corrective number 1, the pause.
The instruction here is to pause before acting, even briefly, and recollect the self.
Which sounds easy.
It sounds deceptively simple, like a throwaway self-help cliché.
Right.
But neurologically, it is profoundly difficult. Think about the speed at which we operate.
It's instantaneous.
A notification pops up on your phone, and your thumb is already swiping it before your conscious mind has even registered what it is.
An email comes in with a slightly passive-aggressive tone, and you immediately start typing a defensive response while your cortisol spikes. We are pure reaction.
We are operating entirely out of the amygdala.
Yes. The pause is about inserting a micro wedge of consciousness between stimulus and response.
It is the activation of the parasympathetic nervous system.
Taking one single, deep, conscious breath before you open the door to walk into a difficult meeting. Taking 3 seconds to feel your feet on the floor before you open your laptop in the morning.
It is the literal physical gathering of the fragments of your attention before you step into the arena of action. You are reestablishing the center.
It's claiming sovereignty over your attention before giving it away to the task. Okay, corrective number 2. full attention.
Right. The text advocates performing tasks with full attention rather than divided urgency.
This is the Leopold Bloom protocol. It is the absolute rejection of the myth of multitasking.
Cognitive science has proven definitively that human beings cannot multitask.
We really can't.
We can only tasks switch rapidly, which drains the brain's energy reserves and severely diminishes the quality of our focus.
So if you are washing the dishes,
Just wash the dishes, feel the temperature of the water, notice the texture of the soap.
and if you are writing a quarterly report, write the report. Close the 10 other browser tabs.
Divided urgency is the literal translation of Peri's Beto being pulled apart. By bringing full somatic attention to a singular action, you turn a mundane chore into a site of presence.
I feel deeply convicted by that. How often am I listening to an audiobook on 1.5x speed while trying to reply to a text while walking my dog?
We all do it.
I am optimizing for efficiency but bankrupting my presence. Which brings us to the third corrective, which I think is the most challenging one mentally. Presence as the point.
This is a tough one.
The piece suggests we need to recognize moments of presence, a random conversation, a delay, a sudden rainstorm, not as interruptions to our day, but as the point of the day itself.
This requires a radical, almost Copernican shift in our psychological perspective.
Because we are so rigid.
We are deeply conditioned to view our schedules as sacred. We have our list of real work, and we view anything that deviates from that list. A neighbor stopping to chat, a traffic jam, a computer crash, as a hostile obstacle.
We view them as interruptions.
But if the sacred is truly not elsewhere, if the sacred is exactly what gathers the fragments in the present moment, then that unexpected conversation isn't blocking your path.
It's your path.
In that specific moment, it is your path.
Yeah.
It's reality presenting you with an invitation to drop your agenda and be fully present.
It's very stoic in a way. Amor fati. Loving your fate. You stop fighting the reality of the moment and start actually inhabiting it.
Exactly.
If you're stuck in traffic, the traffic isn't preventing you from living. The traffic is where your life is occurring right now. Gather yourself there.
Beautifully said.
And finally, the fourth corrective, which is pulled straight from the chariot on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, releasing outcomes.
The ultimate test.
The text advises us to release obsessive attachment to outcomes in the spirit of Krishna's teaching.
This is how you practice karma yoga in a modern corporate environment or in modern parenting. You execute the work to the absolute maximum of your ability.
You prep relentlessly for the presentation. You study exhaustively for the exam. You have the difficult, vulnerable conversation with your partner.
You do the active work of Martha, but, and this is the razor's edge, you have to aggressively detach your internal peace from the result of that work.
Which is so hard.
It is incredibly hard.
Yeah.
But it is the only path to freedom. You cannot control if the client signs the contract. You cannot control the professor's grading curve. You cannot control if the other person reacts with anger or grace.
The fruits of the action belong to the universe.
You can only control the purity, the focus, and the intention of your gathered action. You do the work as a pure offering, and you let go of the fruits.
That is the ultimate release valve for anxiety. The pause. Full attention. Presence as the point. Releasing outcomes.
It's a comprehensive system.
The essay distills all of this rich history, the theology of Aquinas, the yoga of the Gita, the phenomenology of Joyce, into one incredibly potent mantra. And I want to deliver this slowly, because if you take nothing else away from this time we've spent together, I want this phrase to lodge itself in your brain.
It's a great line.
Sit inwardly even while you serve outwardly.
It is a profound summation. It perfectly encapsulates the hybrid state we've been circling this entire time.
It is the marriage of the two archetypes.
The deep, unshakable inner stillness of Mary, acting as the power source for the relentless, necessary active service of Martha.
It really is the formula for an undivided life. Now, as we begin to land the plane on this exploration, there is one final, beautifully poetic observation in the essay that I want to highlight.
The coda.
Yes, it has to do with the physical geography of where these paradigm-shifting stories actually take place.
Yes, the essay provides a coda that ties all these disparate threads together through the imagery of the spaces involved.
It's so striking once you see it.
If you look at the geography, the story of Mary and Martha doesn't take place in a temple. It takes place in a normal house.
Right.
The epic wanderings of Ulysses don't happen in mythical realms. They happen in pubs, on city streets, and inside domestic houses.
And even the Gita.
And most remarkably, even the vast, terrifying battlefield of Kurukshetra in the Gita becomes, under Krishna's instruction, an intimate, interior sanctuary for Arjuna's mind.
That's amazing.
The text makes the point that this recurring domestic or grounded setting is no accident. The house, the ordinary environment, is the ultimate symbol of the soul in the world.
The soul in the world. It's the exact messy nexus point where cooking and contemplation, duty and devotion, the sacred and the mundane are forced to figure out how to coexist.
The final overarching insight here is that the goal of human development is neither the triumph of Mary over Martha, nor the triumph of Martha over Mary.
It's not a competition.
No. The goal is their complete, seamless reconciliation.
And when that internal reconciliation actually happens, the external transformation of our reality is absolute.
It changes how you experience everything.
As the synthesis beautifully lays out, because of this shift in interior posture, the stressful kitchen in Bethany transforms into a chapel.
Yes.
The blood-soaked, terrifying battlefield becomes a site of profound spiritual awakening.
And the completely ordinary, banal day of running errands in Dublin elevates into an epic, heroic journey.
Yeah.
And, to return one last time to the enigmatic phrase from Luke, we finally understand that the one thing necessary is not located elsewhere.
It is the hidden center within you, from which all things, when they are rightly seen, and when they are fully attended, to flow naturally into the world.
It's a very empowering message.
The hidden center. It's not on a map. It's right there inside your own chest, waiting for you to gather your attention around it. We've covered a massive amount of intellectual and spiritual ground today, traveling from ancient scripture to modernist literature, all in pursuit of a cure for our modern fragmentation.
It's been quite a journey.
But before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a final, highly practical challenge based on everything we've unpacked. We know now that the one thing necessary is not a destination.
It's not something you find on vacation.
Exactly. It is not waiting for you when you finally retire or when you finally clear your inbox or when the kids finally grow up.
It has to be now.
So look at your actual life right now. Think about the most mundane, repetitive, or genuinely frustrating task that is waiting for you today.
We all have one.
Maybe it's sitting in bumper-to-bumper traffic on the way home. Maybe it's folding a seemingly infinite mountain of laundry. Maybe it's answering that one specific email from that one specific coworker that you have been dreading all week.
That's the one.
If the hidden center is truly not elsewhere, if the sacred genuinely suffuses the ordinary, how might that very task, that specific, annoying, banal chore, be your exact entry point into the sacred today?
How can you transform it?
How can you utilize the pause, full attention, and releasing outcomes right there? How can you sit inwardly while you execute it outwardly?
That's the practice.
Think on that. Thank you for exploring these incredible ideas with us. Take a deep breath, gather your fragments, and take that unified attention into whatever it is you choose to do next.